sports are never coming back to Sonoma State if they disappear right here, right now.
Here's Brody Brazil.
I'm sure this information is documented somewhere like on my Wikipedia page, but I went to San Jose State University, graduated as a Spartan back in the early 2000s. That's part of the California State University educational system. So is Sonoma State up in the North Bay here of the San Francisco Bay Area. So my school and this school connected. Other than that, I have no direct relationship to Sonoma State other than knowing it exists and it has an athletic department. But unfortunately, the Seawolves are entering their final school year of sports, and they just found this out, that all of the sports programs at Sonoma State are being eliminated due to budget cuts. Now, that is unfortunate, obviously, from the sporting side, but I also want to make this important point a priority early here in my video, that this affects the educational system. And as a parent, as a citizen of the Bay Area and of Northern California, I hate this for the school system. Huge budget cuts. In fact, the school right now, Sonoma State, individually facing a deficit of $24 million. The CSU system is also reducing its budget by a certain percentage, which is only going to tighten things even worse for all of the state schools. I'll get into that in just a second. But up at Sonoma State, 24 degree programs being eliminated. I know we're here to talk about the elimination of sports and the trickle effect and maybe the bigger picture concern here, right? Like, this is about Sonoma State. But if you're somebody who lives near a small school or went to a D2 school or has a favorite community college, like, this might be happening to your school next. And we'll get into why that's important again in just a second. 62 campus positions are set to be eliminated, including 40-something faculty members. They basically got an email mid last week saying, you know what, we are not bringing you back for next school year. Now, this is early heads up. This is early notice, but they got it in an email. They got it all at once. And maybe to no complete surprise, like everybody could see this trend coming, school enrollment at Sonoma State has dropped 38% since 2015. So if you don't have the tuition, if you're not getting the budget money from the state, all of this coming together to put you in a very difficult financial situation educationally, obviously the athletics side of it falls in line. If they can't afford it, that's probably going to be one of the earlier things that gets cut. But the entire D2 sports program at Sonoma State has been canceled. And going back to that as kind of the focus here of this video, 7 women's teams, basketball, cross country, golf, soccer, softball, track and field, and volleyball, all eliminated. So like softball, for example, will continue. It will start and continue for the rest of this school year, but that's it. Starting next academic school year, no sports at all. Same thing on the men's side, 4 teams there, baseball, basketball, golf, and soccer. A total of 227 athletes plus coaches, trainers, and support staff. Now, the school has said, we will uphold the scholarships we've given out. We will also try and find you the right transfer assistance if you want it, if you need it. But a lot of these kids are going to Sonoma State, maybe because of proximity, but because of opportunity. Like the team lets them have a spot to play on the roster, or they give them playing time, or they gave them a scholarship. So for 227 college kids, like, this is really rough news. But again, more of the bigger picture here about what's going on and how this could happen to any small school now across the country. This could be a trend that I am worrying about. SSU's interim president said, I know this is difficult news for our campus community. I am keenly aware of its human impact and how individuals, families, relationships, and communities are affected by such news. I understand that no amount of explanation or necessity makes any of us feel better. And at least there is some context to that, some understanding that this is a school situation, not really about the sports department specifically, but there are bigger problems here, and that there is nothing that's going to make anybody feel better about it. However, if you hear what the women's soccer head coach had to say here, Amiria Salzman, I hope I'm saying that right, hope I'm pronouncing that right, this kind of came out of the blue, and when there was some kind of questions asked and some answers desired, there were no answers here. Coach Salzman says this, quote, "It was a total shock because no one in our department knew, so we had no time to prepare. It was a terrible and incredibly insensitive decision to handle the news in that way, in terms of sending out a mass email on a Wednesday morning or afternoon. Hey, everybody, cutting the budget, cutting these programs, cutting all of school sports starting next year." After having sat in 2 meetings, my reaction now is upset and disappointed that the SSU administration was not able to succinctly answer the questions we had about how we got to this point. And that is a fair thing to bring up here. It can't just be, the school sports are eliminated. There was no request for help. There was no community involvement. There was no save our sports effort. It just went away. And to that point, I fully agree. At least have the effort to put up a fight. Like, have the school have an effort to put up a fight. See who can help. See who's willing to see this through and not just cancel it. That's the easy thing to do. Just cancel it, move on, get rid of it. That's the easy thing to do. Here are some of the upsetting trends, and this is why I say it's important for other small schools, whether it's community colleges or other state schools. I know San Francisco State is going through a lot of these same issues from a budget perspective and from an athletics perspective. The entire CSU system just, and I mean like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, had its budget cut by 7.95% for the upcoming academic year. There's a possible budget shortfall of anywhere between $400 to $800 million next year across the CSU system. So yeah, 25 here, 25 there. Across all the CSUs, and there's like more than a dozen of them across our state, $800 million is the potential budget shortfall for next year. So you can imagine more cuts are coming and are on the way. Sonoma State might have just been among the first. Less programs, right, from an education standpoint, but less sports. What does it equal to you? Right? We're talking about this as a sporting community. I'm here on a sports-based YouTube channel. Sports makes a campus, sports makes a community more vibrant. When you have teams, when you have Sonoma State sports, I understand it may not be the biggest draw or the most popular thing, even on campus, but the fact that you have it just brings so much more diversity and also togetherness to the campus, to the school, to the entire environment. And now you're just wiping it away without a fight, without a push, without anything. You're just saying it is going away. Sonoma State has been associated with NCAA since 1964. Men's basketball was one of the first on campus. They've been a D2 team almost all these years. They've had some conference championships. They've had some nationwide championships over the years. But Sonoma State, again, a small program, but a very long-standing program. This is 50-plus years in the making, and now it's simply going away. So here are my takeaways, beginning with the future of sports feeling bleak at a lot of these smaller schools, whether they're state schools here in California, but again, across the country, right? The enrollment isn't what it used to be. The cost of things is only going up. Sports, to some school officials, some administrators, this is an easy budget cut. This is one of the easiest things to get rid of. It's harder to get rid of the educational stuff. It's easy to get rid of sports. And it also brings me to the conversation of big versus small business. Now, you understand, like, big business is a box store. Small business is the mom and pop shop that has existed for 40 years and doesn't do a lot of advertising, but that bookstore, that toy store, they've always been around at that shopping center. This is kind of the equation of big business, like the big colleges, the D1 schools, the ones that have their athletes on huge NIL deals, and the small schools, which just can't afford to really run a business the same way that the big schools can. And I would also say what differentiates big schools versus small schools is having a football program or not. Now, at Sonoma State, I think it was in the 90s that they ended their football program after about 20 years of having one. And if you don't have a football program, let's be totally transparent here, that brings in among the most money, revenue, tickets, broadcast endorsements, whatever it is. Football usually creates the money and the pool for the other sports to feed off of the rest of the school year. And if you're a school like this that doesn't have football and cannot support the rest of the athletic program, you're in trouble. And so that's my point here, is that schools like this, again, this is a video about Sonoma State, but it's about so many other schools that you might be familiar with. Once these schools lose their teams, tell me when they come back. Tell me how the path goes here for Sonoma State athletics. Tell me how many years down the road did they say, you know what, let's spend some money and bring sports back. Now, this is going to cost us $14 million to redo the fields again and to whatever, fund the pro, but let's bring sports back. Do you think it's ever coming back? Sports are never coming back to Sonoma State if they disappear right here, right now. It's as simple as that. And that's among the most unfortunate parts about all this. It's not just losing the sport right here, right now. It's the future of it probably never, ever making a comeback. I should also throw this in. Usually I end the video on the takeaway. Well, there is something coming up next. Oh boy. In just a couple days, on January 30th at 1:30 p.m. in the Student Center ballrooms on the Sonoma State campus, they're going to have a town hall meeting to discuss the budget cuts. So to the soccer head coach's point, there was no explanation to this. Oh boy, it seems like there might be now, and there's going to be a lot of questions asked. I imagine there's going to be a lot of emotion behind this and frustration behind this. So at least people will get their chance to air out grievances or maybe see another path. My hope for all of this would be that the cuts to the sports program are at least put on the table. And now let's see what the response is. Is there any way to save this? Is there any way to salvage this? Because again, once you cut it, it's not coming back. I think educational stuff, easier to bring back. Sports, nearly impossible to bring back. That's the end of this video. I appreciate you sticking around. Thumbs up down below. Greatly helps me and this video and this channel. And one more favor I can ask of you. Go down there and make sure you are subscribed to this channel. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.